Okay, so today we're diving into something I bet you think you know everything about. Sleep.
Sleep.
You've definitely heard it's important, maybe even for like peak performance and all that.
Right.
But what if I told you that consistently sleeping less than 7 hours a night could seriously increase your risk of heart disease?
Right.
Like by a lot, by 24%.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant jump.
Yeah. So we're going deep on this today with Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
Okay.
He's like this leading sleep scientist, right? And he's consulted with like everybody, the NBA, the NFL,
Wow.
even Pixar. Can you play that?
Pixar. What do animators need sleep scientists for?
I know, right? Seems like even animated masterpieces need some solid sleep.
I guess everyone does. It's really fascinating how sleep impacts almost everything, though, from like physical health to even creativity.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest myths I think that Walker debunks in this book is the idea of the short sleeper.
Oh, yeah, the short sleeper.
You know those people, like, they brag about how they can function on 5 hours a night?
Oh, yeah. I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Exactly. But it's kind of like trying to run your car on fumes, you know? Not a great long-term strategy.
You're headed for a breakdown.
Exactly.
The reality is our bodies are really wired for a lot more sleep than we often give them.
That's so true.
We have this, it's called the circadian rhythm. It's our internal clock. And what's amazing is that they've done these isolation experiments, and in those experiments, humans naturally fall into sleep cycles that are actually longer than 24 hours.
Wait, really? So our bodies actually want to sleep more than a full day?
Longer than a full day. It really goes against this whole short sleeper thing.
Yeah.
There was a sleep researcher, Dr. Thomas Roth, and he was asked, what percentage of people can really function on 5 hours of sleep? And he said 0. Absolutely 0.
Wow. So if anyone out there is listening and you're thinking, like, well, I'm the exception.
Yeah.
Chances are
Yeah.
you're probably wrong.
You're probably not performing at your best.
And I think to understand why we really need to dig into what actually happens when we sleep.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, not being tired.
Right.
There are these two main types of sleep, NREM and REM sleep.
Right.
And they each have a totally different role, kind of like two separate work crews in your brain.
They're both crucial, yeah.
So can you break it down for us? What's the difference between those two sleep stages?
Okay, so imagine deep NREM sleep as your brain's decluttering process.
Okay.
This is when your brain gets rid of unnecessary neural connections. It's kind of like cleaning up your computer's hard drive, deleting those unnecessary files.
I like that.
Walker uses this great analogy of sculpting. He says that NREM sleep is like chiseling away the excess clay, and then REM sleep comes in and refines the details.
So NREM sleep is like the rough draft, and then REM sleep is where the magic happens.
Yeah, exactly. REM sleep is where your brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and can even spark creative insights. And here's the thing. If you wake up early, you're cutting into that crucial REM sleep.
Oh, no.
And if you go to bed super late, well, that disrupts the deep cleaning of the NREM sleep.
It's all about balance, right?
It's all about timing.
Timing. Okay, so we're really messing with our brain's natural rhythm when we're skimping on sleep. But, be honest. We've all pulled the occasional all-nighter, right? Does it really make that much of a difference in our daily lives?
Well, we have.
Yeah.
But those all-nighters, they're doing more damage than you might think.
Really?
Yeah, let's talk about athletes for a second.
Okay.
Studies show that even a little sleep loss, just a little, it hurts their performance across the board. Speed, accuracy, reaction time, you name it, it's worse with less sleep.
Wow.
And what about that recovery time after a workout? That's crucial.
Right, that's when all the muscle repair happens.
Exactly. And guess what fuels that muscle repair?
Wait,
Sleep.
I shouldn't.
Yeah. It makes sense. And I've heard that a lot of pro sports teams are now investing big in sleep specialists.
Yeah, they are. They're finally realizing that prioritizing sleep is like this secret weapon.
Absolutely. It's like a performance enhancer.
Right. And it's not just for athletes, right? Like, what about all of us? What about our brain power, memory, focus, decision-making?
It's huge. Think about, that big presentation you aced.
Oh, yeah.
You can thank a good night's sleep for that.
Yeah, I definitely feel sharper after a good night's sleep. Like, no brain fog or
You're
anything.
in your game. Well, it's crazy. There's actually a study that shows that even a few nights of not getting enough sleep,
Yeah.
it's like the same as being legally drunk.
Well, what?
Your cognitive performance is identical.
Wow. That's a scary thought. So basically, like, walking around sleep deprived is kind of like driving your brain under the influence.
That's a great way to put it.
Oh, man.
It's really powerful. And it actually gets even more interesting when we look at how sleep, or the lack of it, impacts our emotions.
Our emotions. Okay.
Yeah. Think about, for example, how sleep-deprived kids are known for those, like, epic meltdowns.
Oh, yeah. Right. Tell
Mhm.
me about it. I've definitely witnessed a meltdown or 10.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a very scientific reason for it.
Oh, there is.
Sleep deprivation completely throws off our emotional control. It messes with it.
Interesting.
It basically makes the amygdala, which is like the alarm system in your brain,
Okay.
it goes a little haywire. It's like, warning, warning.
Right.
Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that usually keeps you cool.
Right. It's like, calm down, calm down.
It's like, dude, I need a nap.
It's like, I can't deal with this right now.
Exactly.
So when we're tired, our brains are basically primed to overreact.
You got it.
Okay, so not getting enough sleep, basically a recipe for disaster, bad decisions, emotional roller coasters, and a whole lot of brain fog. But this is where I need some good news. What can we actually do about this?
Don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. The good news is improving your sleep, it often just comes down to some simple tweaks.
Okay,
And we're not talking about some crazy sleep boot camp or anything.
all right. Let's hear these sleep-enhancing secrets.
So one of the easiest things you can do is manage your light exposure. Remember how we were talking about the circadian rhythm? It's like your internal clock.
Right.
Well, light is how you set it.
Makes sense.
Getting enough natural sunlight during the day, it's like giving your internal clock a good winding.
I like that.
And on the flip side, that blue light that you get from your phone or your laptop,
Uh-huh.
that's like hitting the snooze button on your sleep.
Right, yeah, blue light messes with melatonin, right,
Exactly.
which helps you wind down for sleep.
Exactly. So create a digital detox zone in your bedroom for at least an hour before bed.
Okay,
Think of it like a tech-free sanctuary for your brain.
I like that. A tech-free sanctuary.
Yeah.
So it's like signaling to your brain that it's time to switch from work mode to sleep mode.
Exactly.
What about, like, the actual bedroom environment, though? Does that matter?
Oh, absolutely. Temperature, it plays a huge role in how well you sleep.
Yep.
Have you ever noticed, like, you get that sleepy feeling when you're all warm and cozy?
Yeah, totally. Like after a hot bath or something, or like when you're all snuggled up under the blankets and it's like a cold night.
Yeah. There's actually a reason for that. Our bodies, they naturally cool down as we drift off to sleep.
Oh, wait.
So a cool room can actually help that process along.
Interesting. So what's the magic temperature? What should we be setting our thermostats to?
Well, around 65 degrees seems to be the sweet spot for most people.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely adjusting my thermostat tonight. So we've got light, we've got temperature. What about food? Does what we eat affect our sleep?
100%. Think about it this way. Would you run a marathon right after Thanksgiving dinner?
Probably not a good idea.
Probably not. Digesting a huge meal takes a lot of work,
Right.
and that can really interfere with your sleep.
Makes sense.
Same thing goes for sugary drinks. They might give you a quick burst of energy, but it's kind of like hitting the gas when you should be easing on the brakes.
Right. Okay, so what about, I've always wondered this, what about alcohol?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of things to avoid before bed, alcohol is a big one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I always thought a nightcap was supposed to make you sleepy.
It might make you feel drowsy at first, but
Oh.
alcohol actually messes with your sleep cycle.
Okay.
It especially messes with that REM sleep that we were talking about, the stuff that really makes you feel rested.
So even if you, like, pass out right after you have a couple drinks,
Yeah,
your brain's not actually getting the quality sleep that it needs.
not at all. Not even close.
Wow. Okay. What about, this one's for me, caffeine.
Oh, caffeine.
I'm a total coffee fiend.
Yeah.
Is it really that bad for sleep?
It really depends on how your body handles it, and it really depends on how close to bedtime you're having that last cup.
Oh, okay.
Because caffeine, it can stay in your system for hours. That latte you had in the afternoon could be why you're tossing and turning at midnight.
Wow. Okay, so maybe I'll rethink my afternoon pick-me-up.
Yeah.
But what about, like, for people who are trying all the right things, they're doing all of this, but they're still struggling, what are the options then?
Well, there are medications that can help, but they do come with their own risks.
Right.
You know, sleeping pills might seem like a quick fix, but they can actually make things worse in the long run.
Yeah, I've heard they can be addictive.
Yeah.
And that they can actually mess with your sleep patterns over time.
They can. They can also mess with your memory,
Wow.
and they can even increase your risk of some health problems.
Oh, no.
So it's definitely important to talk to your doctor before you go down that road.
For sure. So what's the alternative? Like, is there a way to address the root of the problem instead of just, like, masking the symptoms?
Yeah, absolutely. There's this really powerful technique called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia,
Okay.
CBT.
CBTI.
Oh.
I'm intrigued. What is that?
So it's a type of therapy that helps you identify and then change those thoughts and behaviors that are keeping you up at night.
Interesting.
It also teaches you relaxation techniques, and it can really help you build a solid sleep routine.
Oh, nice. So it's like hitting the reset button on your sleep habits.
Exactly. And what's really great is that it gets to the root of the problem. It's not like sleeping pills where you're just masking the symptoms.
Oh, right. It's getting to the why.
Yeah.
What about like natural remedies or like other types of therapies that can help?
Yeah, totally. Regular exercise. Regular exercise can do wonders for your sleep,
Okay.
as long as you're not like hitting the gym right before bed.
Right. Yeah. No late night workouts.
But I'm sure you've noticed, like, you sleep better when you've moved your body during the day.
Totally.
It's like your body's naturally tired, but in a good way.
Yeah, I get tired.
And a lot of people find that relaxation techniques, things like meditation or deep breathing exercises, even gentle yoga, that can really help calm their minds before bed.
Right. It seems like the key is really just like finding what works best for you.
Yeah.
It's not one size fits all when it comes to this stuff.
You got it. And consistency is key. Stick with it. You know, you'll start to see those changes.
That makes sense. Because good sleep is worth investing in, right?
Oh, it's one of the most important investments you can make for your health, your well-being, honestly, for your sanity.
So true. I mean, it's amazing to me how something as basic as sleep
I know.
can have such a huge impact on, like, everything.
It really is. And the more we learn about it, the more we realize just how powerful and essential sleep truly is.
It's true. So speaking of learning more, I'm like dying to hear about some of those cutting edge sleep studies that you mentioned. Like, what are some of the most exciting discoveries happening in, like, the world of sleep science right now?
Okay, well, one area that's really blowing up right now is the link between sleep and brain health,
Yeah.
particularly when it comes to Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, yeah. I was reading a little bit about that. So I've heard that sleep helps clear out, like, these harmful toxins from the brain or something.
You heard right. During deep NREM sleep,
Okay.
your brain's like waste removal system, it's like a cleaning crew.
Uh-huh.
It goes into overdrive.
Wow.
It flushes out toxins like beta amyloid, and that's a protein that's been linked to Alzheimer's.
Okay. So potentially, like, getting enough sleep could help prevent or delay dementia.
That's what they're hoping. It's like a really hot topic in research right now,
Wow.
and the findings could be huge.
That's amazing.
There's also a lot of fascinating research being done on the connection between sleep and our emotions.
Oh, interesting. You know, I've always been so curious about the connection between, like, dreams and our emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Like, is there any scientific evidence that dreams can actually be therapeutic in some way?
You know, there's actually growing evidence that REM sleep, the stage when we dream,
Right.
is like our brain's way of processing emotions and kind of like regulating mood.
It's like our brains are sorting through our emotional baggage while we're sleeping.
Pretty much. And some studies are even suggesting that this targeted dream therapy,
Okay.
where therapists are working with patients on processing specific emotional issues but in their dreams,
Wow.
that can actually be really helpful for treating things like PTSD and other mental health conditions.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's really amazing.
It seems like we're really just scratching the surface of what we know about, like, the power of sleep and dreams. You know, it's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. For so long, we've, like, totally underestimated something that's so fundamental to our well-being.
Totally.
It's like sleep has been this hidden superpower all along, and we've just been too busy, like, burning the candle at both ends to even notice.
Yeah. And in fact, there's almost been this weird glorification of sleep deprivation.
Right.
Especially in like our modern, always-on, hustle-hard culture.
Yes, hustle culture is not good for sleep.
Not at all. But the science really tells a different story, you know. Consistently shortchanging ourselves on sleep, it's like running a marathon without ever stopping to refuel. Eventually, your body's gonna crash.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. And it's not just our individual health that suffers either, right? You mentioned earlier that sleep deprivation has these huge ripple effects across society as a whole.
It's massive. The economic impact alone it's staggering. The RAND Corporation, they did this study. They estimated that lack of sleep is costing the UK economy up to 40 billion with a B pounds a year.
Whoa.
That's billions of dollars lost because of lost productivity and, increased healthcare costs, all these things that are directly related to sleep deprivation.
Wow, that's a serious wake-up call.
Right.
I imagine that other countries are facing similar economic hits, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it goes way beyond just money, too.
Right.
Think about the increase in accidents,
Oh, yeah.
medical errors,
Right.
even fatalities when people are sleep deprived. It's a public safety issue.
Absolutely. And we were talking earlier about doctors and how critical sleep is for them. But this is so many other professions too, right?
Anyone who operates machinery,
Right.
drives for a living, makes split-second decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, pilots, truck drivers, air traffic controllers,
Oh my gosh. High stakes jobs.
high stakes, and they all require extreme focus.
Yes.
And that goes right out the window when you haven't slept.
Yeah, it's almost as if we're setting ourselves up for potential disaster by not taking this seriously.
It's a recipe for disaster.
So how do we fix this? Is there any hope for a more sleep-aware society?
There's always hope, but it's going to take a multi-pronged approach, We need to change how individuals behave, but we also need to look at, the bigger picture, changing societal norms around sleep.
Right. So let's start with those individual changes then. What are some effective ways that we can actually encourage people to prioritize their sleep?
Well, I think education is a really good place to start. We need to be teaching kids, and really young, about good sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
Just like we teach them about, eating healthy and exercise, it should be just a fundamental part of health education.
That's so true. Good sleep habits are so important to learn from a young age.
Huge. And that education needs to continue throughout adulthood too, right? We have to bust these myths.
Yeah.
These myths about sleep.
Well, the myths are pervasive.
We need to drive home that message that it's not lazy to prioritize sleep.
Right.
It's actually essential for
Perfect.
everything.
Yeah. To perform at your best in all areas of life.
Exactly.
So it's really about changing the whole culture around sleep, making it something that we value instead of something that we almost stigmatize,
Totally. And that cultural shift needs to happen in the workplace too.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard of some companies that are now offering nap rooms and more flexible schedules to support their employees' sleep.
Those are huge steps in the right direction. I'd love to see more companies adopting these kinds of sleep-friendly policies,
Right.
creating work environments that value their employees' well-being.
Yeah, which includes getting enough sleep.
Exactly. But beyond those individual and workplace changes, we also need to think about bigger picture systemic changes, right?
What do you mean by that? What kind of changes?
So think about things like later school start times for teenagers because, their natural sleep cycles are actually shifted later, or stricter regulations around things like drowsy driving.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
We could even have public awareness campaigns about sleep,
Right?
just like we do for other public health issues.
It's true. I feel like sleep is kind of overlooked when we talk about those big public health issues,
Right.
It sounds like we really need this fundamental shift in thinking where we recognize that sleep is a basic human need, not just a luxury or, like you said, a sign of weakness.
Totally. 100%. We have to fundamentally change how we view sleep, how we talk about it both individually and as a society. It's about creating a culture that truly prioritizes sleep as a pillar of our health and well-being.
I love that. Well, this deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it?
It really is. I'm definitely feeling inspired to go home and take a nap and really prioritize my sleep. How about you?
Always. I'm all about that sleep.
It's so important. And on that note, we will leave you with this. We've explored why sleep is so essential, but what about the mysteries that unfold while we're asleep? The dreams. Could there be even more to discover about the power of the sleeping mind? Sweet dreams, everyone.